Hey there, do you know fossil fuel supply from the nature will be depleted in the next few decades? Do you know fossil fuel burning is one of the main causes for global warming? What are the alternatives that can replace fossil fuel? What do Malaysians think if a new energy is to be implemented in our country? We will discuss this in our research. Hi, we are Group C, Crave for Knowledge, and our team members consist of Siti Norziana binti Muhammad Fuad, Sherry Natasha binti Muhammad Hakimi, Samson Fu Kongji, Winnie Yong Wei Chi, and Raymond Woon Ziyuan. Electricity is indeed one of the most important milestones humankind has ever achieved. Following the progressive development in our country, the consumption rate of electricity is steadily increasing. To cope with this demand, more power stations are built, and the burning of fossil fuel contributes to high emissions of carbon dioxide. Our research, in line with SDG 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, aims to study on the current situation of energy issue in Malaysia, and we want to know how Malaysian community perceive the issue. According to a paper published by Yaya, on 26 of June 2009, Malaysian government has considered the possibility of implementing nuclear energy in National Energy Policy of 10th Malaysian Plan. In January 2011, Malaysia established Malaysia Nuclear Power Plant Corporation (MNPC) in charge of nuclear energy development. You might be wondering, why develop nuclear energy? It is stated by Shafi and Topal that although our fossil fuel supply will meet about 84% of energy demand in 2030, the future supply remains an uncertainty. Thus, to ensure continuous supply of energy, renewable sources need to be discovered. Some of the alternatives are solar and wind energy. However, studies have been carried out, and these energy sources shows intermittent and periodically variable characteristics, which indicates that they are less reliable compared to nuclear energy. Uranium-235, which is one of the nuclear elements that fills up conventional nuclear power plants, has high energy density, and in a small amount, it is able to generate much greater amount of energy. Besides being carbon-free, nuclear energy also has less operating costs. It is nearly 8,000 times more efficient compared to burning fossil fuel to generate power. However, a disaster struck in Fukushima, and the incident is known as Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant. It happened on the 11th of March 2011. Its death toll was at 573, not including other casualties. This disasters has caused a huge impact on the public acceptance level toward nuclear energy across the world, including Malaysia. In November 2019, former Minister of Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change, YB Yobiin, announced the disbandment of MNPC and stopped the nuclear energy development. Fast forward today, we are very much curious how perception among Malaysians has changed over time, and this became our research title, Malaysian Perception Towards Implementation of Nuclear Energy. We have proposed 4 inquiry questions that guide us throughout our research. What is the perception of Malaysian community towards the implementation of nuclear energy in the future? Secondly, how Malaysian community perceive towards the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy? What do Malaysians think about the disbandment of MNPC? Are Malaysians ready for the implementation of nuclear energy in power generation in the near future? We have several objectives that we have achieved in this study. Firstly, we collected perception of Malaysian community towards the implementation of nuclear energy in the near future. Secondly, we also collected perception of Malaysian community on the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. Thirdly, we collected insights among Malaysian community in the disbandment of MNPC. Lastly, we studied on the readiness of Malaysian community for nuclear energy in power generation. From our inquiry questions, we propose that first, most Malaysians are still unaware of the existence of the nuclear energy as one of the energy sources. Secondly, Malaysian community have their own perceptions and opinions towards the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear energy. Thirdly, in general, Malaysians have negative perceptions towards the implementation of nuclear energy. Lastly, despite the advantages of nuclear energy, most Malaysians are still not ready for the implementation of nuclear energy. To collect data for our research, we have utilized mixed methods, quantitative and qualitative. In terms of quantitative, we collected statistical data in the form of yes or no, and agree or disagree. Whereas for qualitative method, personal opinions are collected from the respondents to further support the quantitative data. For both methods, it is conducted in the form of survey through Google Form, and the form is spread in the period between 1st November 2020 to 14th November 2020. The form is spread through social media such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp. Also, for qualitative method, we have included literature review of journals and articles in our study to further support our research. From the 151 responses we have received, there were 57 males and 94 females. 143 of them are from the age group of 18 to 25 years old, 7 from 26 to 35 years old, and 1 from 46 years old and above. 131 of them are students, 15 are wage employed, 3 are unemployed, and 2 are self-employed. In the first question to study on the general understanding towards nuclear energy, we provided a brief article to spark the respondents' interest in our topic. After that, we asked the respondents if they know anything about nuclear energy before reading the article. 75.5% responded that they are well aware of nuclear energy, and 24.5% are still unaware. This shows that general Malaysian community have basic understanding when it comes to nuclear energy. In second question, we asked the respondents about their perceived main aspects of consideration on the implementation of nuclear energy in Malaysia, and we provided a few options for them, namely environmental issues, safety measures, cost of construction of nuclear power plant, sustainable development, community well-being, and other personal opinion. The highest percentage opted for safety measures. It is understandable why safety measures become the main consideration because of the Fukushima nuclear disaster. The second highest chose environmental issues. One opinion from the respondents stated that it is because nuclear energy has high risk in affecting the environment and people's health due to its radioactive property, which can remain for a long period of time. In the third question to study on the perceived advantages of nuclear energy and nuclear power plant, highest majority think that nuclear energy is energy efficient and has high energy density compared to other energy sources. They think that uranium-235 is better in generating energy than coal. The second highest choice of answer is that nuclear energy is more sustainable as compared to fossil fuel. Utilization of nuclear energy could be more sustainable than fossil fuel in a long-term development process. In the fourth question, we study on the perceived disadvantages of nuclear energy. Most people think that nuclear energy poses a high risk of nuclear incidents because they are well aware of nuclear disaster in Japan. One of them stated that high risk of tragic accidents similar to what happened in Japan will occur again, and it poses health issues, especially when there is lack of knowledge in managing the nuclear power plant. The second majority of people think that it produces radioactive waste and it poses a risk for radiation pollution. The radioactive waste bring harm not only to humans in terms of health, but it will affect the offspring and to many other living things within the ecosystem. When it comes to fifth questions regarding the statement, nuclear energy can help protect the environment, highest majority have neutral viewpoint because they are uncertain of how nuclear energy can benefit the environment. Second highest majority agrees with the statement, but they state that it is only true if optimal methods of managing and controlling, especially nuclear waste, are implemented. Last question to study on Malaysia's standpoint towards nuclear energy development. We asked the respondents if they agree with the disbandment of MNPC and if government should continue with the nuclear energy development. Highest majority have neutral standpoint and they couldn't agree or disagree because they are uncertain of the country's capability in managing the new energy. Second highest agree with the continuation of nuclear energy development because they think that it can help to solve environment issues such as global warming. Thus, they feel that nuclear energy is one of the best efforts that needs crucial attention by the government. One of them stated that Malaysia is getting hotter every year, and it is undeniable that burning of fossil fuel not only in power plants but also transportation is the cause of global warming. To conclude our research, we can conclude that most Malaysians are aware of nuclear energy. This contradicts with our first proposition where we propose that Malaysians are unaware. Secondly, Malaysians think that safety measures is the top priority if nuclear energy is to be implemented. Thirdly, most Malaysians are on neutral standpoint because they have doubts in government's capability and thus they are not ready for the implementation of nuclear energy. However, this neutral standpoint might change to supportive if government can gain the people's trust in handling the new technology in a safely manner. We believe that our project can act as a reference in terms of managerial and academic. For managerial, it can act as a guidance for the government and relevant parties to reconsider nuclear energy development in the countries. Whereas for academic, it can broaden the horizons of academicians and serve as secondary data for their further research. We believe that our study is significant for student, learner, or researcher because it provides necessary information, especially to those undergoing tertiary education and specializing in this area. It provides an input of comparison between nuclear energy and fossil fuel. It provides an overview of Malaysian perception towards implementation of nuclear energy. Whereas for relevant authorities, it provides the data on acceptance level of Malaysian community. It acts as a good reference for relevant parties to consider the possibility of nuclear energy implementation. Whereas for government, it is an important gauge to implement new strategy. For general community, our study is significant because it can augment their knowledge about nuclear energy. It provides exposures to the public about energy-related issues and it raises awareness about the readiness of Malaysians for the nuclear energy implementation. That concludes our research. Thank you for watching.